Hey guys, hope you're all having a great day. So right in front of me here, I have a somewhat rare and really special specimen that I am very excited to be putting in my garden today. And before I planted it, I wanted to talk to you all about what this plant is, what interest it brings, and why it's such a special plant. So I have the tag from Proven Winners right in front of me, and I kind of just want to walk you guys through this tag and talk about this plant. But this is going to be I would say dwarf-sized tree. It's like larger than a shrub, but smaller than a tree, so kind of like an ornamental tree, and provides 4 seasons of interest, which is not really easy to find in a plant, especially for an ornamental tree. So this is called the Temple of Bloom 7 Sunflower. I'll put a link down below to their website if you want to have more of an in-depth article, I guess, to read about it. And this is a really cool plant that grows in sun or part shade. So you want to make sure that you give it a decent amount of sun. So I would say like at least 6 hours a day would be best for it. If not, the more sun that you can give it, the better. And then it also grows in USDA hardiness zones of 5 through 9. This tree will get to be about 6 to 10 feet tall and wide. Usually it gets a little bit taller when it's in a bit of a warmer climate, a little bit shorter in a colder climate. The spacing is also 6 to 10 feet if you plant multiple of these. However, this is the type of plant that you definitely could have just one of, at least in one particular area, and it'll look stunning by itself. So the bloom time is in the summer. Right now it is May. It's a bit windy too. It's the middle of May. You can see what it looks like in the springtime. However, in the summer is going to be when it first starts to put out blooms. And it's going to put out white blooms all over the tree, which is really gorgeous. However, that's not the only show that it actually provides. It also blooms in the fall, but not with flowers. See, it has these things called bracts, which are what hold on to the blooms. And those bracts are green when they first come out with these blooms. But then what happens is throughout the end of the summer into the fall, as the temperatures start to get cooler, those bracts start to turn to a reddish color, and it actually looks like the tree is blooming again, which is something that doesn't happen with a lot of plants. And that's what makes this plant really special. Something that you could compare this with would be a limelight hydrangea or any other type of panicle hydrangea that changes with the season. Those types of blooms come out as like a chartreuse green or a white color, and then as you get those cooler nights in the end of the summer and fall, it starts to take on those deep pink tones, and that's exactly what happens with this tree. It's like a pinkish to reddish color. Pruning just as seldom needed, and in early spring would be best. So you don't want to do a whole lot of pruning on this. I'd say the most pruning you'd want to do is maybe down at the bottom so you can see some of this bark. You want to plant it in well-draining soil and then fertilize it in the spring. So I talked about the 3 seasons as to where this plant looks really great with foliage, with flowers on it, all that good stuff. However, in the wintertime, this also is a really stunning plant for the bark that it has. It's similar to a birch tree where it has kind of like a peeling bark appearance. But what's really awesome about this plant is as it starts to grow, that bark becomes such a great thing to look at in the wintertime. And even though it loses its leaves, it is a deciduous tree, it really provides that 4th season of interest. I'd say, honestly, the way that this plant looks like right now is actually when it's least interesting, which is actually really cool. So this plant is going to be going into my garden today, and I'm actually going to show you right now where we're going to be planting it. So right where I placed this tree is where we're going to be planting it today. And I also wanted to mention that it doesn't look much like a tree right now. These are very hard to find, and I actually was surprised that I even found it today. But it's on the smaller side. However, they actually grow quite fast. I'll bring you guys closer in a second to show you how much this actually has grown this year. You'd be a bit surprised how fast they grow. So just in a matter of about 2 or 3 years, it's going to take on more of a tree form, especially depending on how we prune this too. So this is in the ground, and it also was a good day to plant this because we're also mulching all the beds today. But I just wanted to point out a couple more things. First of all, I'm going to water this in really well after I'm done. And we're going to be watering this almost every day for the whole first year while it's still putting roots in the ground. I put biotone starter fertilizer in the ground so that way it can develop a good root system for this year. But just because it's a new planting and we're also doing it in the spring, we're going to get some hot summer days. So if you end up planting your own and you do it in the springtime, make sure you water it well throughout the first year. It'll establish some good roots after this year, and we won't have to worry about watering it as much next year and on from that. But the first year is absolutely the most important. The other thing I wanted to mention is pruning, and you can see that there's a lot of stems that are pretty low to the ground or almost sitting on the ground at this point. It wasn't as big of a deal when this was in its pot, but now that it's in the ground and at ground level, there are some that are sitting on the ground. I'm going to leave them all for now. However, if they grow throughout the summer and they tend to just grow like right to the ground, then I'll cut back any that are lying right on the ground. However, the majority of them I'm just going to leave for this year. I want it to have as much green growth as possible so that way you can soak up the sun and get some energy, because I don't want to put this plant into too much shock. However, it did say on the tag that early spring is going to be the best time to prune this. So I'd say end of February, beginning of March is generally when I'm going to be pruning this, and that's when I'll prune back pretty much all of the very low branches that I know for sure are just going to grow into the ground. The rest of them I'm going to leave. It's got a lot of good upright growth, so hopefully it'll start to gain some height this year and next. Besides that, I hope you guys like this video. Let me know if you have any other questions about this plant. I might potentially make some other videos on this in the future. If not, you'll certainly see it in some garden tours. But yeah, I'm really excited to see some flowers and also those bracts in the fall. Besides that, I'll see you guys in the next video.